Juventus have been fined again for racist chants from the 22nd of March 2012. Juventus have been hit with their third fine of the season for racist chanting by their fans during at that point Tuesday's Italian Cup semi-final against AC Milan. Italian sporting authorities handed out a €20,000 fine, double the penalty Juve were given in January after racist chanting directed at Udinese's Pablo Armero of Colombia and Cape Verde-born Swiss international Gelson Fernandez. They were docked €10,000 in October after racist chanting against Inter Milan. Milan player Sully Montari of Ghana and Dutchman Urbi Emanuelson were the targets of chants on Tuesday. This latest fine confirms Juve fans' sorry record when it comes to racist chanting. They regularly abused Manchester City striker Mario Balotelli, an Italian of Ghanaian origin, during his Inter days. In 2008-2009, Juve had to play a match behind closed doors with when their fans racially abused Balotelli following a controversial incident during the team's clash with Inter. That seemed to anger and galvanise certain sections of the Juve support, who proceeded to regularly target Balotelli even when not playing against his team. The next season, the club was punished 4 times, including the partial stand closure once for fans' anti-Balotelli chants. That season they were hit with a €25,000 fine and a €20,000 fine, as well as the closure of the stand holding their ultra fans for 1 match. Whereas this season the sanctions have been tame in comparison. Now, the reason I bring this up, it's a case of, like I said, racism is a plague that still afflicts football, and it seems like, and we did speak about it last week in regards to Chris Samba and the fact that Juve getting fined 3 times in one season in relation to racist chanting. And they're only being fined €20,000. Obviously, that's not a deterrent. But the powers that be in Serie A need to wake up and realize that this isn't once, this isn't twice, this is 3 times in the same season. So it's one of them ones where something has to be done. I mean, Jesse, being our Italian football expert, maybe you can tell us a bit more about the way it runs over there. But what do you think about this, G-Man? What do you reckon about this? And we'll come to the fans in a minute. But guys, I think this is absolutely disgraceful that it can happen 3 separate times and they're only getting fined €20,000. Obviously, the previous punishments were not enough of a deterrent. So you got to up those punishments or start throwing them out of tournaments, because that'll be the only way their fans will learn. And obviously it's probably a moronic minority, but at the same time it keeps happening. So, but Jesse, what do you reckon first?
No, you know what? I have to agree with you, and it reminds me of the Luis Suarez, Patrice everything, because when that happened, I said, this isn't a football issue. It's something bigger than football. It's a societal issue, and it's the same. This is something that's far bigger than football. But the other thing that I have to say to you is, you're looking at it from an Englishman's perspective, and not an Italian's perspective.
All right.
And having said that, right, I'm gonna go back to the Luis Suarez thing, because if you look at that from a Uruguayan's perspective, not an awful lot went wrong there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Which is the point I brought up, yeah.
He wasn't actually being racially offensive and all the rest of it. Now, taking it back to the Italian side, obviously the authorities don't really feel that this is something that they need to act seriously on. And I personally feel that they need a bit of help, probably from UEFA, probably from FIFA, much higher up than themselves, to come in and do something about it. But what we have to look at is the cultural norms in Italy right now. And I will say this, in terms of how multicultural that country is, it's coming on in the last 20, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
But is it really that multicultural? No, not really. So to say that I'm actually surprised by all of that, I'm not. Which I suppose in itself is upsetting.
Yeah,
but having said that, having said that, and actually one of my cousins is half Italian, so there you go. But having said that, once again, I think it's a case for the higher ups in football to intervene rather than letting, for example, the Italian FA do it by themselves.
I mean, it's one of them ones. Matt Whitfield has just said in the chat about Sepp Blatter wouldn't do anything. He would just tell them to shake hands. It's shocking. Football's going downhill. I've on many occasions said that Sepp Blatter's a moron anyway, so it's one of them ones. He could tell his story walking. But it needs, it is a societal thing that needs to be cut out. I mean, football could take the lead and show some sort of example, but it's probably not going to happen, which is a shame. But it's one of them ones. I mean, Johnny Sykes has just asked an interesting question. Are there any? Well, Johnny, I'll let you ask the question.
I was just wondering, because over here, you have in the States, you have quite a lot of PSAs about racism, and you don't really see that much racism in American football, as opposed to you see it a lot in European football. And I'm just sort of wondering, do they have PSAs over there? Perhaps we need more black coaches in the Premier League. I don't know. But I also think African players, or even Africans themselves, need to take a bit more responsibility as well in the way that they talk to each other. If you're gonna change it for everybody else, change it for yourselves as well.
See, do you know what? That's why it's so much of a bigger issue than football, and Jazzy's right in that regard. So it is an interesting one. I mean, we could go on for hours about it.
Sure.
I mean, does anyone else want to jump in with an opinion on it? I know Tom Wood, you wanted to say something a while ago. Was it relating to this point?
I can't remember what I was going to say now.
Does anyone else want to jump in on this point before we move on?
What I will say, and I definitely agree with Jezzy, is that FIFA have to take a stance on this and on any racism cases, because at the end of the day, Italian, just like what we say about Blatter trying to investigate himself by getting his own peers to investigate him. That's what the Italian league are effectively doing. They're investigating themselves, because it's not just Juventus fans, and I'm sure Jesse will agree with me that even though they're Juventus fans, they're portraying Italy as a whole as well.
Yeah.
Jesse?
No, I have to agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with you. I do. I agree with you wholeheartedly. They're not particularly portraying Italy in a particularly good way either. But like I say, we have to look at it from an Italian perspective, and the Italian perspective probably is that, racism as an issue isn't that big of an issue for them to have to go and deal with. So, by that, you're going to get the mediocre fines, you're going to get teams being punished multiple times, and it's seemingly looking like to everybody on the outside that nothing is really being done. And as I say, what really needs to happen from there is you have to get somebody with more authority at a higher level to come back and say, you know what, actually, we need to step in because you're actually representing us at a lower level, and as a result, making us look bad. So until the likes of FIFA and UEFA get involved and say, look, you know what, to be honest with you, none of the countries that represent us at any level can be seen to not be trying to tackle racism in, the level that we deem to be the standard. This is going to continue. It'll continue in Russia, it'll continue in Italy, it'll continue in Spain, it'll continue all over the world. And as I say, the thing about this, more than anything else, that everybody has to understand, and I will say it again, and if you missed it the first time, you missed it the second time, you can rewind it on the podcast. This is something that is bigger than football. Alright? And until this is dealt with at the appropriate level, at a societal level, we're going to see more of it in the sports as well. We really are.
But it's hilarious. It's hilarious that government officials are coming out and trying to castigate the footballing world about it, but they're not putting anything into action to try and combat it, and they're not doing anything to try and combat it, as you rightly said, at societal level. That's the thing that gets me. Like co-Prime Minister Cameron coming out and chatting crap about it. It's like, mate, like I've said before about when he came out and said football's murky politics. It's like, mate, you need to point them guns inwards and look at how you got into power. Shut up and move on. At the end of the day, that's what That's what kind of is a very much a source of consternation. The powers that be in government are not doing anything about it, apart from coming out and jumping on the bandwagon and just saying, "Oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong." Yeah, but what you can do about it? What could do about it? That's all I can think about it.